It is extremely rare, and in fact, I don't think there's ever been a time where I've gone live this late. It is literally 10:22 p.m. and this is the time that I am definitely in the bed. And I was fighting with God over and over and over again, saying, God, it's too late for me to be getting up going live. So what you all don't know is in the evening time, I spend that time reading my Bible or sitting in my room listening to my gospel music. And so I was upstairs dancing around, really getting into my gospel music, getting my soul, my spirit ready to go to bed. And right in the middle of it, and I'm not making this up, right in the middle of it, God just puts in my heart, you know I'm going to have you going live. There's someone out there that's really, really, really struggling right now. I see some messages now, people saying, hello, good morning, thank you for this blessing. But God, and I was fighting it. I was thinking, God, it's 10 o'clock and I'm already in pajamas. You know, my earrings are off. I got my little hair net thing on and I'm ready to go to bed. And I'm sitting there and getting in bed. And I just hear God telling me, someone needs to hear what I need you to tell them. And I'm just saying, God, it's late. I've never gone live this late. So finally I know. I've been around long enough to know when I need to just shut my mouth and do what God is telling me. So as tired as I am right now, trying to get my butt in the bed, because I've got my, I lead a mentorship session on Mondays and Wednesdays at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. So I like to get a lot of rest the night before so I can be ready for that. But anywho, I'm here, so let me see who's here. Someone said something about an emergency. Someone says, I have been. Thank you for your obedience. So I'm reading some messages already. I can't believe you guys are even up this late. This is just amazing. Normally when I go live, I went live earlier today. I think at noon. And that's already up on my YouTube channel and on my Instagram. But I've never gone live twice in a day, let alone this late. So I'm praying that there's someone here that needs to be encouraged. I want to talk a little bit about strange favor. I'm going to read a little bit from my book, Necessary. And I'm going to talk a little bit about strange favor because there is someone, and I know this because I don't think I've been pushed this hard from God to go live ever, especially this late. There's someone who really is not understanding what's really happening right now. Someone says, thank you for going live again. Still up waiting on the Lord. Amen. I can't believe you guys are still up. But there's someone who really is not aware of what's truly happening right now. You're really, really not aware of what's going on right now. And you think you're being punished. And I get it because God knows I've been there a lot, right? You think things are not going well or things are not going the right way. And you're being tricked because you're not understanding that sometimes when his strange favor shows up in our lives, you guys, his favor does not always look like blessings. I wish I could lie to you and tell you that it does. But for those of you who've already read my book, the chapter on strange favor, you'll know what I'm talking about. Favor does not come wrapped with pretty bows. And it doesn't always fall out of the sky, you know, looking so beautiful. At least in my own life, and I'm well in my 50s, I can tell you, favor often comes wrapped in some sort of suffering or discomfort. You know, it really does. Let me see a few messages. I see people saying, you're talking to me. Wow, that's so beautiful. Okay, amen. Can you pray for me, please? Absolutely, baby. So when I say I have nothing planned, I'm just going to let the spirit flow because I'm supposed to have my butt in the bed. And I just kept fighting with God that it is way too late to be trying to go live. And God has put in my heart, no. Someone out there needs to hear this. So I don't even know who exactly this message is for. Someone says, I'm in the process of losing my money. Someone says, I have your book and it's a blessing. Thank you. Thank you so much, baby. So my book is called Necessary, but let me read a little bit about strange favor to you all. And maybe this is going to help the person that's up this late worrying about some mess and it's already really worked out. And maybe you don't understand why things are being stirred up right now. Now, if you do have my book Necessary and you've already read that chapter called, I got to talk a little low because people are asleep or are trying to fall asleep. If you've already read that chapter, that's called Through the Fire. You know that was a chapter that I talked about when everything was falling apart in my life. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? You know, that was not long before I lost my son. You all know that he was dying at that point. We were in and out of the hospitals left and right. My marriage was absolutely hanging by like a half of a thread. Finances, no matter how hard I was trying, my finances was just in the dump. And it was just a season in life where just every single thing was going wrong. And that season didn't end. You ever feel like when you come up for a breath, like you're hoping that season is over, and then it was like something else, you know? And when I looked around at my friends and other people, not that you should be comparing, because you should never get into comparing, but it's just as if everybody else just seemed to be doing so well. And then it felt like for a moment, the more I was praying to God and trying my best to sort of kind of do what was right, things was just getting worse. And so that's where that chapter came about strange favor. Now, for those who don't know me from Adam, my name is Zenja Glass. Everyone calls me Z. I have a podcast called Unlocking Greatness Podcast. And years ago, and some of you already know because you guys have been following me for a while, God woke me up in the middle of the night and said, I'm going to have you write a book. And he literally showed me a picture of the book. Just the word necessary was on it. My name wasn't even on the front cover, which is why my name is not on this. And he said, I'm going to have you write a book, and it's going to encourage the brokenhearted. This is going to change lives. I didn't know that God was going to have me live the book before I could write it. So it was years later before it was actually completed. And I just published it on April 9th, which is the anniversary of my son's death. But anyway, there's a ton of messages coming through. Someone says, I wish I can give you a big hug. Thank you, baby. Thank you so much. It's taken everything in me. I'm supposed to be up in the bed, but I know enough to know when God tells me, no, you need to do what I say right now. So you guys are seeing me look at my worst, but it's okay. If you love me now, then, hey, we all good. But I want to read a little bit about strange favor. So for those of you who have your book, Strange Favor, turn to chapter 6 and you all can read along with me. I'm going to read a little bit on page 72. I'm going to try my best not to cry because this just takes me back. All right. Sometimes favor doesn't look like favor at all, baby. When my life was falling apart and everything seemed to be spinning out of control, there was no way in the world you could have convinced me that God was showing me favor. What kind of strange favor is that? How can anyone in their right mind call that favor? Especially when you're going through the storms and don't feel his presence at all. Favor should come wrapped with pretty bows and fall from the sky like an angel, bringing you a personal delivery from God, right? Anyone relating to that so far? I'm seeing a whole lot of hearts, a whole lot of comments in here. I see Donna says, I adore you. You listen to God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. So favor should come wrapped with pretty bows and fall from the sky like an angel bringing you a personal delivery from God. Am I right? Favor shouldn't look like trouble. Favor shouldn't look like pain or discomfort. Favor shouldn't look like times of uncertainty and attacks from the enemy. Favor shouldn't accompany tears or hardships. That's not favor. Or is it? Is it possible that this strange favor from God has a greater purpose in our lives that many of us simply cannot see during our storms? I'm going to pause for just a second. I thank you all I'm seeing like stars and hearts and roses. And thank you, Mark. Thank you all for that. I appreciate that, baby. So for those who are just joining, I'm reading from chapter 6 from my book, Necessary. And I'm reading this chapter on strange favor. And I normally don't go live this late, but I know that there's someone that needs to hear this because someone is going through some things and you thinking that everything is just all wrong. Where is God at? When are things going to change for me? You know, I had one lady earlier today. She said, you know, something to the fact that I'm just tired. I'm just tired. Like I'm I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm not seeing the results, and I'm just tired, and I don't understand why so many things continue to happen in my life. And see, when I hear, let me just stay focused on what I'm reading, because when I hear stuff like that, I think through all the seasons in my life where I can so identify with that, it's just like, God, when is enough going to be enough? When are things going to turn? But I'm trying to teach somebody. There has to be at least one person on this live that's getting it. There's got to be at least one person that I want to reach and get you to see. Baby, you got to consider that the strange favor of God could be at work in your life. And I already know favor don't look like favor. It don't look like it. And it may sound offensive, like, how can you call this favor? Do you realize what just happened in my life? But baby, I want you to listen to me a little bit. And I'm praying that I can encourage you. So I'm reading from chapter 6. I'm reading Strange Favor. Y'all got me crying already because I'm seeing all the comments. There's a ton of comments coming through, and I'm trying to focus on this. Someone says, God, I'm trusting you for a job. All things are just falling apart. Hello, beautiful. I love you. I need this. Please pray for me and my family and friends. Absolutely, Sherry. It's me because I'm going through a lot right now. That's from KB. Well, baby, maybe God had me get my butt out of bed just for you, because God knows I was trying to fight him. And he says, no. I've got too many people thinking that I'm not with them right now. They don't even know I'm showing them favor. They don't even know I'm setting them up. They don't even know. So let me read a little bit more, because I was there. So just listen up, okay? Oh, dear God, please speak through me. So I'm reading chapter 6, Strange Favor. Where did I leave off? Is it possible that this strange favor from God has a greater purpose in our lives that many of us simply cannot see during our storms? Is it possible that whatever you are going through right now, the strange favor of God is powerfully at work in your life, moving you, strengthening you, making you wiser, teaching you to persevere, positioning you for new territory, taking away what is no longer needed? Listen to me. Listen to this. Is it possible that right now God is taking away what is no longer needed for the next season in your life, building your character and shaping you to become a light for others? Could it be possible? Now, for those of you who have my book, I'm reading from Necessary. Turn the page. We're going to 73 a little bit. I'm going to take my time and walk through this because it's late anyway. And I'm just not going to rush for anybody. For the person that's God wants to hear this message, I believe you'll stick around and listen to all of it. So I want to read a little bit more. I am greatly moved by the story of Joseph in the Bible because he went through nearly all the stages I just listed. And at every point, the Bible teaches us that the Lord was with him and he was greatly favored by God. I often ask myself, how on earth could the Lord be with Joseph and not immediately rescue him from his troubles? How can the Bible teach us the Lord was with him when he was treated so unfairly and endured hardships for years? I just couldn't understand how the loving God that we serve could sit with us and wipe away our tears, yet not fix the problem when he has the ability to do so at that very moment. If you love someone and you're able to do so, wouldn't you want to immediately take away their pain and discomfort? Those were my thoughts when I was unable. Listen to me, listen carefully. Those were my thoughts when I was unable to recognize the strange favor God showed Joseph. At first glance, I could not see any favor because it was not wrapped with ribbons and bows. It was wrapped in his suffering. Now we're about to go a little bit deeper. Let me make sure everybody still follow me. So I'm seeing a whole lot of comments come through. You all follow me so far? Someone says he's only 6 years old and he loves to hear the Bible. So I think someone has their child listening. Tell me where that comes from in the Bible. We're about to get on into that, baby. We're about to read a little bit about Genesis chapters 37 through 45. One of my favorite sections in the Bible that talks about Joseph. Baby Joseph went through some stuff. We went through some stuff. And at every time the Bible says, but the Lord was with him. The Lord was with him. And that's why I chose to put this section in my book. So for those who are just joining, I'm reading a little bit from my book, Necessary. Ooh, Lord, you got me up late doing this, but I believe someone needs it. So I'm gonna walk in obedience and do what you're telling me, Lord. All right. Let's read a little bit more. All right. I'm on page 73. Let's visit the life of Joseph and explore a biblical example of this strange favor that our good Father gives us to prepare us. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, baby. To prepare us for greater blessings in new territory. I love the story of Joseph in Genesis chapters 37 through 45, because not only does his life serve as a blueprint to understanding the strange favor of God, his life also gives a beautiful meaning to the passage, and I quote, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper." That's Isaiah 54:17. I want someone to put that into the chat box. Someone type in Isaiah 54:17. In case you're not familiar with this story, here's a brief recap. Okay. Joseph had a dream that he would reign over his brothers. His brothers hated him and were very angry about that dream. They betrayed Joseph and devised a plot to throw him into a cistern. When they saw Midianite merchants, they pulled him out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites. The merchants eventually took Joseph all the way to Egypt, where he was then sold to one of Potiphar's officials called Pharaoh's officials called Potiphar, and that's in Genesis 37. So I'm giving you a little bit of a backdrop. All right, so you guys got to follow this. We're talking about a man named Joseph. Now, some of you all may know who I'm talking about, and some of you may be like, "Girl, it's my first time hearing his name." But anyway, it's okay, baby. I got you. Genesis chapters 37 through 45. So this man had a dream. He dreamed that basically his brothers, his dad, everybody was kind of bowing down to him. And you can read the whole story. But anyway, they got jealous of him. So they ended up throwing him into a cistern. They were going to kill him, but then they decided not to do that. So they sold him. Can you imagine this? This man got sold by his own siblings. And then he was sold again to one of Pharaoh's officials called Potiphar. So now, pick up where I'm going with this. And the reason I'm taking my time with this, I got to get you to see what's taught to us throughout his story. And why the Bible keeps telling us, but the Lord was with him and showed him favor. Because you may be sitting there thinking, what in the world? Why is it always one thing after another? Like, I just don't understand that just when I thought I was getting on my feet, this situation happened. I just don't understand why I lost my job. Or I just don't understand. Here's a good one. I don't understand why my boss or someone's treating me this way. Or I don't understand after all these years, why is my marriage like this? I don't understand why my child is sick and in the hospital left and right. Now, if you know anything about me, we practically lived in the hospital my son's entire life until he passed away, just before I published this book. But if you're feeling that, I just need you to follow me just for a little bit. Just hang on for a minute, because I'm tired too. I'm ready to go to bed. But I got to get this in somebody, okay? So I see a lot of messages, people saying, "Thank you so much. My God, okay, good. Yes, my marriage, okay, I hear you, baby." Okay, so someone says, "Oh my God, this is for me." Well, baby, you may be the reason that God got my butt out of the bed and told me you about to go live. And I'm like, "God, I'm not about to go live. Not this late. Are you kidding me?" And he says, No. Some people are not getting it, and you've got to make sure that you teach them and you tell them. So let's just keep reading. I'm reading from my book, Necessary. Most of you already know I wrote a book called Necessary. For those of you who are not familiar, it's on Amazon as a paperback, and it's on my website at Zenja Glass as an audiobook as well. Let's keep reading. So, strange favor. I'm on page 74 for those who are following along. So we know that Joseph was sold, and we know that he was sold to Pharaoh's official called Potiphar in Genesis 37. So let's read a little bit more. While in Potiphar's house, the Lord gave him success in everything he did. Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. Now that's Genesis 39, 3 through 4. So you would think by this point, okay, cool. Everything's good. His brothers treated him wrong. He was put in a cistern. They ended up selling him. That's horrendous to go through, right? Then he ended up being sold someplace in Egypt to one of Pharaoh's officials. Man, that man went through a lot, right? So hold on. And now he's pretty much in a really, really good position, doing well. So you would think the story really should end at that point. Just leave the man alone. He'd been through enough. So listen to this. My God. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. That's Genesis 39, 3-4. Even though Joseph was stripped away from his family and sold by his brothers, the Lord gave him success in everything he did. Okay, well, that sounds good to me, right? But by this point, I would think he has been through enough. God showed him favor despite his family's betrayal. He now had a great job. Okay. And in my humble opinion, he should have been left alone to live a happy life. But oh, let's examine how God continued to give him more of this strange favor. We're about to get to a golden nugget. I want you guys to pick this up. Now, again, I'm talking to that person who really do not understand why you done been through so much, baby. And it seems like when one storm is over, another one comes right on back at you. But I need you to stick with me a little bit, okay? I need you to get this in your spirit. You may need to pass this on to somebody else, okay? So let's keep listening. I'm on page 74. I'm reading from my book, Necessary. Let's see how this strange favor from God was packaged in Joseph's life. If you continue reading Genesis in chapter 39, you would discover that Joseph was a handsome man, and Potiphar's wife was attracted to him. She asked him to sleep with her, but he denied her. Uh-oh. Despite her many attempts to seduce him, he refused her because he was an honorable man. Okay, so he's trying to do what's right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, baby. He's trying to do what's right. So what did she do? She lied and said he tried to sleep with her. By the time you get to verse 20, you will find he was thrown in prison as a result of her lies and betrayals. So you mean telling me you've been sold, then you've been sold again. God finally raised you up. You got a good job. You're doing well. Life is okay. Look like everything's about to go in order. And now what the heck is this? I'm trying to be honorable. And all of a sudden this person lies on him, which is what happened. She lied on him and he's thrown in prison. So let's keep reading. How is it possible to have already gone through a traumatic situation, finally gotten settled, and then without warning, you are unfairly treated and repositioned once again? That certainly doesn't look like favor to me. Yet the Bible tells us, and I quote, this is a quote, I'm quoting from the NIV version, but while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in prison. That's Genesis 39, 20-22. What kind of strange favor was that? That favor led him to being betrayed by his family. Favor shouldn't look like family members turning their back on you. That favor led him to jail. Favor shouldn't look like being blamed for something you didn't do, right? I think it's great that God granted Joseph favor with the warden, but he was still in jail against his wishes. Does that look like favor to you? Does it? Does that look like favor to you, baby? And can anyone relate to that? I see people saying that's so powerful. I see people saying you're sweet. I see people saying that something about this is helping me. Amen. So people say, no, that don't. I agree with you. That don't look like favor to me. Don't you come up in my life trying to tell me this is favor when I'm going through all this mess in my marriage and in my finances and friends betraying me. My son died. No, do not even try to package that as favor. At least that's what I would be thinking. And that's certainly what I was thinking before God had me write this book. So let's just keep reading. My God, my God, my God. Where did I leave off? I'm on page 75. I'm not going to rush. Whoever needs to hear this needs to hear it. So I said, does that look like favor to you? And can you in any way relate to this scenario? Let's keep unpacking this strange looking gift and see what God has inside. Later in Genesis chapter 40, while Joseph was in prison, he interpreted a dream for another prisoner, the former cupbearer for the king. The cupbearer was very grateful for Joseph's insight. When the cupbearer was later released, Joseph asked that he please remember him. And wouldn't you know it, the cupbearer completely forgot about Joseph. So you're in prison. You interpret a dream for a cupbearer. I'll skip through all of that, but he basically told him a dream that, hey, you're going to make it, but you're not. It's a long story. You can go back and read Genesis 37 through 45. So you helping somebody when you already down. Somebody said, don't rush. We love to hear you. Thank you, Vera. You helping somebody. They don't even know you're doing your best to hold it together. They don't even know how badly you've been treated and all the mess you done been through. And you got the nerve to still try to help somebody, which is what Joseph was doing. And this cupbearer, after he got his dream interpreted and got what he needed, all Joseph said is, when you get out of prison, can you just remember me? Well, let's see what this cupbearer did. Cupbearer completely forgot about him. So let's think up. Now I'm on page 75. So let's think about this for a moment. And for those who don't know me, my name is Zenja Glass. I'm reading from my book, Necessary. I normally don't go live this late, but I'm just trying to encourage some people. Okay, so I'm reading on page 75 so let's think about this for a moment. You're already in a place where you have no desire to be. You are betrayed by your family and by a person who lied on you. Then you try to help someone who's in jail with you. And your only request is for them to remember you. But the moment they don't need you anymore, they forget about you. In fact, they went on with their lives and forgot everything you did to help them. Can anybody relate to that one? I'm seeing all kinds of hearts and things go up. I thank God for you. We love you. Thank you, baby. I love you as well. Someone says, I can. Yes, yes, yes. Someone is saying yes. Okay, so I see there's some people who can relate. So you've been helping people. And then when you get down and out, it's like, where is everybody at? That's what Joseph went through. So let's keep examining this strange favor. For those who are joining, I see there's some newer people joining. I'm reading from my book, Necessary. And I'm reading the chapter, just a little bit from the chapter, not even the whole chapter, called Strange Favor. Because I know with certainty that there's someone who's not getting it right now. There's someone who's just not reading what's really happening in the spirit. Ephesians 6:12 teaches us, you guys, everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. The battle is really not even in the physical, it's in the spirit. So you sitting there feeling some kind of way, feeling discouraged, feeling tired, and we all get tired, right? Feeling like, God, where you at? Or maybe I'm not good enough to be blessed. Maybe things are never going to work out. I've been praying for so long. This is not favor. You can't call this favor. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to appeal to someone to ask you, could it be possible that the strange favor of God is at work in your life right now? And baby, you don't even know it. You don't even know it. So let's keep reading and learning about Joseph. My God, my God, my God. Okay, where did I leave off? I left off with he helped the cupbearer. Remember, he interpreted the dream. Cupbearer went on and just forgot about him. So I said, can anyone relate to this? The powerful part of this season in Joseph's life is that, according to the Bible, even during those times, the Lord was with Joseph and granted him favor with others. My God. Nearly 2 years later, 2 years passed by, you guys. Yes, 2 long years while Joseph was still in jail. Hey, son, one of my sons are coming downstairs. I'm in a live right now. I can't talk right now, baby. So, so 2 long years. My kids are here visiting from college, so they're probably coming downstairs like, Mom, what in the world? You're talking to people? Okay, so 2 long years while Joseph was still in jail. Pharaoh had a dream and needed someone to interpret it, but no one was powerful and wise enough to interpret the dream. Now that's Genesis 41 verse 8. Someone put that in the box. Genesis 41:8. Then, wouldn't you know it, the cupbearer all of a sudden remembered Joseph and recommended him. Finally, in the Lord's timing, might I say, they sent for Joseph to be released from prison to help the king. Surely favor shouldn't look like someone helping someone only for them to completely forget about you for years until they needed something from you again. But let's see how Joseph responded. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I don't been through all the mess that Joseph went through, and then I just help your butt, and then I just tell you to remember me, and 2 years go by and you ain't thought about me, you ain't signed a card, you ain't signed a dime, you ain't done nothing, and it's only when you contact me that you need something, I might have an attitude. I'm sorry, that's just me. Let's see how Joseph responded. When asked to interpret his dream, Joseph agreed to help him, and in complete, watch this word, humility, watch this. Joseph said, and I quote, I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. And that's in Genesis 41:16. Someone put that in. Genesis 41:16. After he interpreted Pharaoh's dream, Pharaoh said, and I quote, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you." Ooh, check this out. "You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt." And that's Genesis 41:39 through 41. Now that is absolutely amazing. The story really don't even end there. Now I go on to say this has to be a Selah moment. Selah moment is when you just take a pause. You just have to take a pause. Like, what? Like, and you have to just meditate on that. So I said, thank you, Mark. Thank you again, baby. So I said, this has to be a Selah moment. We have to take a moment and just pause and let that soak in. Do you see how the strange favor of God was at work all along? Joseph went from being in a cistern to serving a rich governor to being thrown in jail, then forgotten about for 2 years, and then in charge of the entire land of Egypt. But the story didn't end there. Oh, I just want to keep going with this. There was a severe famine in the land for 7 years. And Joseph's brothers ended up in Egypt desperate for food, only to discover that their brother, whom they sold many years earlier, was placed in charge of everything. That's Genesis 42 through 44. Good night, son. Good night. Genesis 42 through 44. My God, this is another Selah moment. We have to pause again and consider this situation. The very people who mistreated him now needed him. How do you think Joseph responded to that? I want to pause for a minute because I want to mess with you for a moment. Let's backtrack this a little bit. The relatives, your brothers, all of them threw you in a cistern. Jealous because you had a dream, you know, that they would be bowing down and worshiping you and whatever. Not really worshiping you, but just bowing down. Then you were sold. You rose to a high point. The lady there liked you. You didn't sleep with her because of your integrity. Then you're put in jail. You helped people while you're in jail. They got out of jail and forgot about your butt. Didn't even think about you until they needed you. Then they come to you when they need something. Let's marinate on that. When they needed something. And you still in humility go and help them out by interpreting the dream for the king. The king raised you up to be second in command. And now the same people that treated you wrong, guess what? They now need you. I want to see, can anyone relate to this? Can anyone relate to this? I hear you, baby. I'm seeing a whole lot of comments coming through. Yes, Joseph went through it. Robin, thank you for using the word humility. And here's where I want to get at with this. I can keep reading a little bit more, but I know you guys probably don't want to be listening to me forever. Because the bottom line is that he helped his brothers. And they thought that he was going to kill them. They like, oh my God, you know, they just freaked out and just knew their lives was over. And Joseph said something. Let me turn to that part. Joseph said something that was so powerful that just blew me away. Let me just turn the page and read just a tiny bit more. Page 77. My heart is greatly touched when I read Genesis 50, verse 18 through 21. Someone put that in. Genesis chapter 50, 18 through 21, which states, and I quote, "His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. 'We are your slaves,' they said. But Joseph said to them," and I quote, ooh, listen to this. This is the whole premise of this whole lie. Somebody listen to this, please. This is what Joseph said after his brothers are basically like, hey, we your slaves at this point, brother. We don't treated you so bad. And mind you, there was a famine, so they needed the food. And here they are going to their brother. Listen to what Joseph said. He says, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Check this out. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the savings of many lives. So then don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he assured them and spoke kindly to them. And Joseph went on to say, go get my father, go get my whole family. I'm about to take care of everybody. Now, there's different translations. The King James Version, I think it says something about, though you meant for harm, God meant it for good. The whole point in this is all throughout Genesis 37 through 45. And I will challenge you all to read it. Read it. Get yourself into the word, so that you can be able to fight the enemy with the word. All throughout that story, There's several times in there where it says the Lord was with him. The Lord showed him favor. I used to get so irritated when I read that because I thought, well, if you're showing him favor, come on now, God. If you're showing him favor, if you're showing us favor, why won't you immediately come in and just rescue and take care of the situation? Why won't you just do that right away? But do you not see how Joseph was being positioned the whole time? He was being positioned. There was a famine, and my battery's low, so I really got to end this pretty soon. There was a famine that was happening. Just capture that. That was going to be happening 7 years later. Obviously, God knew this. Joseph went through all those seasons and all those things to be positioned for years later to be able to save the same family. Strange fate. Now, there's, my chapter goes on to talk about a lot more. Favor doesn't always look like favor, baby. It doesn't always look like favor. Strange favor from God looks odd at times. When I was going through it, showed the heck look odd to me. I went through so much, especially with the finances and things, with my marriage, all of the mess I went through. But the reason I'm on alive this late, it's almost 11 o'clock at night. I can't believe I got my butt up, is because you see oil flowing from me. Because I went through so much. God has built compassion up in my heart to be able to give and help other people. You get my point? When I went through so much for years and years and years through some things in my marriage, that enabled me to turn around and be able to help other people who was going through. I didn't know that you can still stand in the middle of a storm. I didn't know that. I thought I had to match the situation. If somebody's coming at me a certain kind of way, I thought I had to dance with them and match that. I didn't realize that, wait a minute, I don't have to participate in this dance? You mean telling me I can still grow from a dark place? And then I began to, for those of you who have my book, there's a chapter in here called God Can Do More with Less. Well, why do you think I wrote that chapter? Because I realized when I didn't have a dime to my doggone name, God was able to do more with less in my life. So that favor, it didn't look like favor at the time, but all God was trying to do, there's a chapter in my book, trying not to turn to it, it's called Hidden. All God was trying to do was hide me. And he began to prune me. He began to deal with things that he wanted me to deal with. My character, my pride. And if you've read my book, you know some of the mess I got myself involved in that I had no business getting involved in. He began to work through all of that. And all of that time, it was strange favor he was giving me. Because he couldn't take me where he wanted to take me at the time because my pride wouldn't let me get there. It's only in hindsight, baby, that I'm able to even say this. Because in the moment, you feel like, yeah. So you can say all of that, but I need to get things situated. So I get it. That's why I wrote that chapter called, if you all have my book Necessary, somebody tell me that chapter called, was it called Seek God First? Or I think it was called Through the Fire. I think it was called Seek God First. But that's why I wrote that chapter, because when I was going through all of that, I was actually upset at God because he wasn't moving fast enough for me. And I talk about that in that chapter. I talked about when I got together with these women in this Bible study group and how they were telling me that I need to seek God first and how I got so offended. I said I wasn't even going to come back to that Bible talk because I'm like, that's easy for you to say, but you don't understand the fire's going on in my life. I'm praying and going to church and doing all of that, but God got to move faster. So I was trying to fix all my issues, working my butt off, working like 12, 14 hours a day, barely sleeping at night, up completely stressed out, had to remind myself to breathe, because it was just so much pressure. I hear someone say, I'm going there right now. I'm there right now. That's where I was at. Because at every angle in my life, from friendships to marriage to finances to health, there was just issues and problems. And I just didn't understand why God, you ain't moving fast enough. That didn't look like favor to me. But all that time, and I wish I had time to read through the chapter on the pruning season. Maybe if God put in my heart, maybe I'll go live again tomorrow night. Because I realize not everyone has my book, and I really want you guys to not miss out on the pruning season. That's a very important season when the good gardener shows up and began to cut away at what's no longer needed. He cut friendships away from me. I just felt so hurt by some things, some friends talking about me, some friends had betrayed me, and God is coming in and the good gardener was just cutting it away. And I'm sitting there feeling all some kind of way, right? Not knowing he was pruning me because they were not needed for the next season in my life, right? He was pruning me. He came in just uprooting me and putting me in new territory. And I'm all shaking and crying and scared. What's going on? How am I going to pay bills? How am I going to take care of my kids? Like I was just done with just about everything. I never realized the pruning that he was doing. I never realized he was hiding me, because when he's hiding you, baby, it feels like punishment. There's a whole chapter in my book about being hidden. I know it don't feel well when he's hiding you, because you're trying to get that dream off the ground, that goal, that business or whatever it is. And you're like, God, why is it not picking up? What is going on? And all God wanted to do was sit down with me and begin to whisper to me and begin to talk to me. And I didn't know. So anyway, I'm going to read a few comments here only because I know my battery's low. So if this camera goes off and this live ends abruptly, just know it was because the battery's really low. I also know you can't go live for too long or the system will shut you off. But let me read comments, because I see a ton of comments coming through here. I pray that this is helping someone. Also, I looked at pruning tutorials on YouTube. They cut so much, but it yields results on the next season. That's what my whole chapter talks about, baby. I love that you did that. Part of it, my chapter on, from my book Necessary, on the pruning season, I talk about exactly that. I began to research and look up, why do gardeners prune? And you're exactly right. I wish I could read it now, but I couldn't understand that why does the Bible teach us that the good gardener comes along and prunes and cuts even the branches that bears fruit? Like, why would you bother if it's bearing fruit? But the whole purpose behind that is so that it will bear more. Because if I didn't went through the mess that I went through, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. This is bearing fruit. You're seeing more fruit come out of my life right now because of the mess I went through. And you all wouldn't believe the amount of thousands of messages that I get in, and especially people saying, Z, you have no idea of some things I was thinking of doing, and I'm so glad I didn't do it. I'm so glad I didn't, I don't even want to give the examples of what some people were considering. And they said, but you got me reading my Bible, I'm reading your book, and you have no idea how it's changing my life. That's fruit. That's fruit. But at that time, I didn't realize that was strange favor coming into my life. Let me keep reading. Someone says, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you, baby. You're amazing. God bless you. Thank you so much for that, baby. Someone says, how often do you go live? Well, let me answer that honestly. I don't know. I've been going live quite a bit lately. They're all saved on my Instagram and on my YouTube page. Just look up Zenja Glass and you'll see it. Mondays and Wednesdays, I go live for my mentorship program. Some of you are in my mentorship program, I think, are in this live. So that's Mondays and Wednesdays. But then that's more of a private session with the people that's just in that. So that's Mondays and Wednesdays at noon. Mondays for personal development, personal professional development. Wednesday is for the business owners and entrepreneurs. So actually tomorrow morning, I'll be live with them. But in terms of a public live like this, I've been trying to do it more often. But if I can be very honest with you, baby, whenever the Spirit just puts it in my heart to do it. So typically it's at noon on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but this is my first time going live this late, and I'm about to end it in just a little bit because I think it's going to cut me off. I appreciate you for sharing your life and experiences. This is not coincidence. I came to your live. I'm happy about that, baby. I'm happy. Someone says, great. I love it. I needed this nice talk. Thank you for coming on. It's been a confirmation. I'm really glad to hear that. Don't let yourself be fooled. I have a chapter in Necessary called If I Were Your Enemy. And it talks quite a bit about how the enemy tries to trick you and get you to believe one thing. You guys got to remember that when he lies, he speaks his native tongue. So he's always throwing those lies at us. That's why it's so important that you understand what is being said to you. So anyway, I won't even get into that one, but there's a whole chapter in there about if I was your enemy, I would make you feel like, you're a failure. I would make you feel like everybody else is moving ahead of you in life. I would make you feel like things ain't gonna never work out. That's at least what I would be trying to tell you if I were your enemy. So that whole chapter is all about if I was your enemy, this is what I would be saying to you. So if you do have my book, baby, make sure you read that. Someone says, how do I get your book? It's on Amazon worldwide as a paperback. It's called Necessary. And it's on my website at Zenja Glass, ZenjaGlass.com as an audiobook. I'm trying to get my thoughts together, you guys. I'm so tired. I'm going to go crawl into bed as soon as I end this live. But it's also on my website at ZenjaGlass.com as an audiobook, because some people like to hear me reading it. And my mentorship is also on there at ZenjaGlass.com. Thank you for your courage to be obedient. My wife and I reading your book together is life-changing. Thank you, baby. Thank you so much. That touches my heart. I'm so grateful for all the reviews. I went on Amazon Was it earlier today or yesterday? Every time I read reviews, I forward it to my family, and I literally cry. Thank you again, Mark, for all the roses. But every time I go on Amazon, I literally cry reading through the reviews because, oh my God, it's so touching for me to hear all of the testimonies and all of the reviews on Amazon. So I really appreciate that, and I hope that that you'll write a review on there as well. Thank you. What is that? Green beans. Thank you, guys. I don't know. I got to figure out what do I do with all those roses and things. But thank you, Mark, again. I appreciate you all. I pray this helps. Someone says, where can I get the audiobook? It's on my website, baby. Just the link is in my bio. But it's at zenjaglass.com. That's where my audiobook is at. That's where my mentorship program is at. And the paperback is on Amazon. But I pray you guys have been encouraged. Zenja, you've changed my life just by listening to you. Thank you, Vero. I am just doing my best to share my mess. That's all. I'm just doing my best to share my mess and help somebody, because God knows I mess up on a good day. But I do recognize in hindsight the strange favor of God. You guys got to remember that. It's very, very, very important. Someone really needed to get this message tonight. Sometimes the strange favor of God is at work in your life and you don't know it. Sometimes he makes you uncomfortable and allows you to get uncomfortable to reposition you, baby. When I started my company many, many years ago, it was through, oh my God, one of the worst moments in my life. I had already walked away from a company that I was running with a close relative. Walked away, practically nothing, started all over, had absolutely nothing. And it's just absolutely amazing to me how God steps in and what he does. So but he made me very uncomfortable. So many situations happened, I can't go into detail, that I was just like, I don't even know what to do. And I walked away from everything. I was heartbroken. I remember sitting on the floor just crying, like, I have nothing. Like, how did I get to this point in life where I have nothing to show for anything? But I didn't know the strange favor of God was at work. Sometimes he gets you in those moments so that he can build you back up. Sometimes he gets you in those moments so you can let go of all that mess you don't need, and he can turn around and open new doors for you. And it wasn't until I started spending time in that secret place, which that's another chapter in my book called The Secret Place. It wasn't until I started spending time with him that I realized he actually whispers to us. If we sit long enough and just sit with him, he actually whispers to us. But I never knew that. And that's why I wrote chapter 1, which is called A Letter to the Enemy, part 1. And you guys already know what that chapter is about for anyone who has my book. And that's that letter where I came at the enemy hard, saying, I thank you for leaving me on my knees. Thank you for abandoning me. Thank you for all the things that you did. You played your role so well, because it was only when I was on my knees before my Father was I able to look up and see your strings were showing all along. You never, ever, ever got to determine my destiny. I never knew that my Father whispers to me. And it was only when I was left alone, when I felt like I didn't have nothing, no one to call, nothing. It was only in that moment, that strange favor that was being shown to me, that I was like, God, you all I got. You all I got at this point. And he began to whisper, and he began to walk me through, here's what I want you to do now. Here, just stay with me. So you guys don't, some of you don't know, I sit in my closet quite a bit. He began to whisper, and I got chills. The strategies he began to give me. That's a whole nother post, which maybe I could do it on how God could do more with less. And with less than $100 or $200, God turned my entire life around and said, now I can trust you. Here's what I want you to go and do now. But he had to do some pruning. He got rid of a lot of people in my life. He got rid of a lot of mess I shouldn't be doing. And at the time, it didn't feel like favor. Felt like strange. It didn't even feel like favor, nothing. I can't even tell that lie. Favor wasn't even a part of it. It just felt like punishment, and it felt like hell, if I can be honest. That's what it felt like. So it's only in hindsight that I'm able to say, oh my God, thank you, God, for putting me through it. Ooh, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's why there's a chapter in my book called Thank Your Naysayers. That's why I wrote that chapter called Thank Your Naysayers. Because in hindsight, I'm able to thank them, because their thorns forced me to go down different pathways, which led to my success. So what they meant to harm me and to hurt me and all the things they did to me, it actually ended up positioning me to twist and make some turns and go in this direction. Ooh, I can just go into some other things. I got to get off this live. It is 11:11. I'm going to read a few more comment. Someone says, how long was your pruning season? I'm going to answer that real honestly for you, baby, because I'm not here to put on a front for nobody. My pruning season ain't over. Still going through it in a certain area of my life. Still going through some things. Now, I've had pruning seasons that's last for a couple years, 5 years, 10 years. One situation that's still ongoing. Still ongoing. Still going through it. Still in this moment as I speak to you, I'm going through it. And if I was able to be extremely transparent, but for the sake of my family, there's some things I just can't, say I've got to have a little protection. You would be on the floor if you knew some of the things, even in this moment, all these years later, that I still have to deal with. But you know what? My circumstances do not get to determine my destiny. It don't even get a vote. It don't even get to show up at the table. And I've learned, because God has taught me, that I can stand in the middle of a storm and I can actually still grow from dark places. So I'm still growing, baby. But there's still some dark places, some situations that I still pray about. So I pray that answers your prayer, that answers your question. I'm still going through some things, but I'd be dang if I'm going to let my circumstances determine my destiny. Anyway, I love you all. I love you. I love you. There's so many comments. I don't know where to stop. Someone says, thank you for your transparency. I'm still going through mine too. Yes, I still am. There's some things I'm going through. Don't think my life is perfect. Don't think that. It's just that I've learned how to stand on the word of God and keep my butt moving. Okay. You're such a blessing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all. You all have been wonderful. I've got to end this live because it's going to cut me off. Isaiah, thank you. Green Beans, thank you so much for all the hearts and the roses that are coming through. I will do my best to go live again. Just check back with me, you guys. If God put it on my heart to go live in the evening again, I'll do it. But I'm going to let you guys go. I want you to get some good rest. I want you to please read Genesis 37 through 45 and start recognizing that sometimes the strange favor of God can be at work. In fact, I think many times the strange favor of God is at work in your life. So read that chapter. If you've already read it, read it through again and do that homework. You all know at the end of each chapter, I give some recommended passages to read, and then I give some self-reflective questions. Make sure you do that. Okay. Each chapter, make sure you're doing that homework at the end so it can take you on a transformation journey. All right. I love you all. Thank you all for joining. I'll talk to you guys later. Okay. So for those who are asking, my book is called Necessary, baby. Who's asking that? Celine. It's called Necessary. And it's on Amazon, and you can get it on my website at Zenja Glass as an audiobook. And that's where my mentorship program is as well. Anyway, I love you guys. Love you, love you, love you. To God be the glory. Bye-bye.